What's going on, everybody? Welcome to THPS Podcast, episode 22. Our guest today is going to be Sattan, and we'll introduce him in just a minute. But my name is the Dode Man, if you don't know who I am, and I'd like to welcome at this time my co-host, my partner, Freddie.
Hey guys, how's it going? Glad to be here.
What's up, Freddie? How's your day today?
Nice, very easy going. Nice Sunday.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. Well, so today we would like to introduce Sattan. Sattan is a skilled custom content creator for the Tony Hawk's Underground Pro mod, THUGPro mod as we like to call it. He's released dozens of original custom levels and various other pieces of custom content over the past few years. As of today, in the THPSX.com vault, he has 43 custom levels, custom skaters, and creative parks. He's surprised by this number himself. Sattan, yeah. Sattan is one of the few custom level creators that produces levels entirely from scratch, and that's very notable. 100% original concepts and designs. He's also created a written tutorial on how anyone can create custom content using the application Blender. He's been an active part of the current THPS community for several years now, and we're stoked to welcome him as today's guest. Everybody, please welcome with me, Sattan.
Thank you. Oh, my Lord.
Hey, we're glad to have you. So we're coming
you.
to you. We're coming to you live from Paradise Park here, one of your custom levels. So
Yep.
we'll get into that and talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, let's start out. And just for those of you that are in live stream with us, thanks for joining us. We appreciate the support. We will reserve all questions from the live chat here today for the end. So Freddie and I have prepared some questions. We also have some questions that we've compiled from Discord from various folks. We'll ask all of those, and then we'll take your Q&A at the end of the podcast. So appreciate everybody joining us. So let's do some general questions to start, Sattan. Get a little bit familiar with you, and this kind of gives everybody a sense of who you are, kind of how long you've been playing the series, everything else. So when did you start playing the THPS series?
Well, I got the first game like on release, if I recall, or I think, oh God, I must have been like 7 years old at the time. I was young. I was a little kid, but either I got it for Christmas or my brother got it for Christmas, and I started playing it then, and pretty much since then I've gotten every single game on release up until whenever it all stopped. I think the last one I got was Proving Ground, and
Yeah, final number
pretty much-
subtitle. Sure.
Yes, but pretty much since the game's been around, I've been playing it.
7 years old.
I'm
Oh man, I feel old.
I'm trying to remember what year it was. It was was it 2000, 1999? I can't remember anymore.
Oh man, yeah, 1999. 1999,
Okay.
August of 99, or sorry, September of 99 is when the first game came out. The demo came out that summer, ahead of the
Yeah.
release. So yeah.
I would have been 7. Yeah, 7 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep. But yeah, started as a little kid, and just here I am still.
Sattan, what was your favorite Tony Hawk game and why?
Oh, that's a tough question. Well, I mean, nowadays it's kind of hard to not say Thug 2 just because of how much stuff is going on with it, and the stuff that I've been able to do with it and that sort of thing. But I really think like 3 left a special place in my heart for me, mostly because of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So many bands and so many songs I learned or like I got into, and like this music in general was because of that game.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's totally fair. It's good.
Yeah, so I would have to say 3 is a really, really high level one for me.
Certainly had an iconic soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, when you first load up Foundry, the first time you ever play it, and AFI's The Boy Who Destroyed the World played, it's like, God. Every time I play that game, it's just like that moment doesn't ever get old, and I don't know why. It's just it's so perfect.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. I love it. Who, and this one's tough, and you don't have to say one if you don't feel like it, but out of everybody that you've observed over time and played online with and everything else, who would you say is your favorite player of the game?
Oh God, that's really kind of a hard question for me to answer. It's just, oh God, there's so many people and there's so many like so much stuff going on with the game. Between just like people like me who just like just play and have fun, and then the people like in the prop community who are doing all kinds of really wild stuff. I just like I can't just say a specific person. It's just there's so much cool crap going on. you
Sure,
know?
fair enough. I understand.
Yeah. It's just we're all in it together and we all make it something special, no matter
Oh,
what
there
we
you
do.
go. I love it. That's
there,
good.
there it is.
Well, how about this? This one's a little easier. What was your favorite online game mode?
Online game mode. Oh man. I mean, honestly, I just whenever I'm just playing on my own, just like going online and playing with people, I just like to do a lot of trick attack and combo mambo sort of stuff and just like play for points. But I mean, King of the Hill, like you
Oh,
can't say no to King of the Hill.
oh yeah.
You're in the right company here tonight.
Oh, believe me, I know.
Oh, that's awesome. So what's your least favorite online game mode? What's the game mode that you're like, yeah, this really isn't my thing?
Oh God, I'm not great at firefight, but it's not like it's not fun. It's just I suck at it. So I'm always gonna be like the first or second person out. I can't. I'm not good at that sort of thing. But I mean, it's still fun. I just die like immediately.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'm terrible. That's probably my worst game mode. That
Yeah.
and probably trick attack. So I feel you there for sure.
What has been your favorite level from every game or console?
Oh man, we're just talking like the standard, like original, like
Neversoft or
yeah, there
Robomoto
we go.
levels.
Just
Yeah.
those the actual levels. Oh God. God, that's a hard one because there's so dang many of them.
Yeah, for sure.
I do have one specific memory of THPS2 Skate Street when I had the game as a kid, where I would turn on all the cheats for like balance and stuff, and I would go to that half pipe and it has the rail that goes around the end, so you can grind all the way from one side to the other and back.
Nice.
You know what I'm talking about?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would just like I would grind it and then have all the cheats on, and I would just go back and forth and just like switch it off and just watch TV for like 2 hours and come back and be like, oh, I got 6 million points. I was like 10, so I was just like, oh, this is
of
silly.
course.
I love it. So that's just one of the silly memories I have of this game, and so that's one of the ones that I remember fondly. So let's just put it like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm sure someone else has done that. I can't be the only one who's done that on that level.
Gosh, I don't remember specifically if I did that or not. I certainly remember the level, but I don't know if I remember that specific mechanic, whatever you want to call it, part of the level where you
Yeah.
just kept doing that. That's
Well,
awesome.
it's because it was the half pipe, and each side had like it had a step up, so it was like an angle. So
Mhm.
like if you did it with just slow enough, you would slowly grind around, hit the angle, and then go back, and forth like over and over again.
Yeah, no, I see. Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. But
Yeah.
I love it. Let's see. So, what? There's so many now, and it's just crazy how many are available. But do you have a specific video from the series that like kind of rocked your world, was revolutionary for you? Do you watch many videos? I guess would be the other question.
Honestly, I don't really. I mean, I watch a few of them occasionally, but I don't really follow the videos that deeply.
Sure.
Like I know they're there, and if I want to show people what's going on in the game, then I go look at those games or like those videos, and then I can, show them a little bit of that. But really, I don't really keep up with it that much.
Sure.
I feel kind of bad saying that because I feel like I should sometimes, but like I don't really, I don't know, I don't really just watch a lot of that.
I think you are who you are, I mean, I can't say that I watch every single video that comes out, but I watch a fair bit. I don't know about Freddie,
Yeah.
but no, I don't think there's any shame in saying that. I mean, you are who you are, and you are, you're into what you're into in regards to the games and the community and everything else. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I would sort of like keep a backlog of videos that I want to sit down and watch, and then I watch them all at once, kind of binge,
Yeah. Like
All
for
right.
me, it's just like I occasionally see one. I'm like, oh, okay, I know, like I might know the guy, or like I've heard something, or like maybe he does something cool in the thumbnail or something. So, like, I don't know. It's like when I see something that looks really cool, I'll watch it, but I don't go and watch every single video.
Ooh, video creators, there's your pro tip. Make sure your thumbnails are solid when you produce
Oh
your
yeah,
videos.
you gotta give me a reason to look.
It's just like a cover of a book, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly.
Satin, what are your top 3 favorite songs from any THPS game?
Oh my god. Well, I've already said the AFI song from Tony Hawk 3.
Right.
I mean, I've already explained why that one's up there. Oh shit. God, that's so hard. There's so much. Like it's 2 other ones. Oh my god, why am I drawing a blank? I should have an answer for this.
That's all right. If you don't have one, that's okay. We can.
Yeah,
You can
I'm just
think about
like
it. And,
Yeah, it's just there's so much good music in this game, this series as a whole, that I find it really hard to just pick out a few unless I have like a specific like moment attached to it, kind of like with that one song.
sure. Yeah, it
Like,
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so like that's man.
That's all right.
Yeah,
We'll think about it,
yeah,
and we can come back to it.
I can't believe I'm being stumped on that one.
I know, because you're a big
Oh,
music
Lord.
fan, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what then would you say is your favorite THUGPro custom level? It can be yours. It can be somebody else's. What have you? I know you've probably played a lot of them. Obviously, made a lot of them. What
Yeah.
would you call a favorite?
Well, if you want to talk about my own, I think we're already on like one of what I think is what probably is my best one, because
Mhm.
like this one was just like everything kind of went right, like the whole execution of this place, because like this one is based off of a real place in my city,
Right.
and so like I had a lot of reference to work from, and like I had a goal to get this whole park like as close as possible, the whole thing with the triangle thing and that whole little area.
Yeah.
And I pretty much nailed that as far as I'm concerned. So
I've
and
seen
just, like, a lot
pictures.
of-
It's great.
yeah. I think Chris Cole skated it at one point, and there's a video of him kind of grinding off of this. I think it was like a board slide. He board slid this little ledge right by the triangle.
I should
And,
be
like,
over there,
yeah.
so I can
Yeah,
follow
there's-
along while you're talking.
Back at the center where you were
Yeah,
standing
I'm there.
earlier.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, he board slid this thing, and like he did something out of it, and there's a photo of him jumping through like across this.
Nice.
Or like maybe he was going from up here onto the side of this or something. I can't quite remember. I haven't seen a video of it, but that's like the only actual skate shot I know of this place. But people have come here to skate in real life too. So
Is it legal to skate here, or is it you get kicked booted?
that's questionable. I'm
Yeah.
not 100% sure on that, because like you go there and like the ledges are obviously waxed and like
Sure.
paint's chipped a little bit, so people are obviously doing it, but. At the same time, like there's some spots like these things with the little pyramids. They're like kind of designed to keep people from doing stuff.
They're like skate blockers kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, in this game, it doesn't really work like that. You can just do this, but you
Sure.
just launch off of them. But like,
It actually makes it better.
yeah, but like, there's a couple little things like that. But for the most part, I think it's kind of it's a pretty chill place to do it.
Sure.
I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, it's it's been a little while since I've actually tried it myself, but
Yeah.
people do it.
Yeah. So, do you have a custom level that you played from somebody that's not you that you really
Oh, yeah.
like?
Obviously Larxian's work has been incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
that goes without saying. The Proving Ground Philly was a really good, like that's leagues better than what I'm capable of doing. And I know that they they do a little bit of like original stuff in there as well, which like kind of piques my interest. But like as a whole, that level is just like solid.
For sure.
Definitely one worth checking out.
Yeah, absolutely. No questions asked. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the Paradise Park is exceptional, and not only that, but it's a great King of the Hill level.
It is.
Oh, I don't even think I intended for that. Where did I put the crown again? I don't even remember.
We can. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, we can run one if you like. I can't. It's been so long since I worked on this one. I can't quite remember what I did.
The biggest thing we'll have to remember is let's be sensitive to our folks that are listening on audio. So there's your
Yeah.
crown on top of that building up there.
Oh, okay. I thought I left it at the top of the triangle thing in the middle.
So there's a transfer that's available for those listening on voice on top of one of the higher buildings, and you can kind of do a transfer up, and the crown starts up there. Um, but yeah, I would agree with Freddie. I've played King of the Hill on this level several times, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun. So
Satin, who would you say
Yes.
is your favorite custom content creator?
Oh, content creator as a whole, like including like not just
Include,
levels, but like characters and stuff too.
yeah.
Oh God, it's so hard to say. Like I just there's so many people and just so many different things out there now.
yeah,
That, like I just it's all these favorite things. I'm just really hard at they're just really hard for me to answer. Like
you don't want to have to be boxed into one particular thing, and that's totally fair.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like
There's
there's
too much
so
good.
much stuff now. There's so many cool things happening ever since like the whole modding scene opened up that I can't just say one person really.
Yeah,
It's just
that's totally
like
fair.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, that covers our general questions. So we're going to get into some stuff that's a little bit more specific as we continue here, watching a little bit of King of the Hill here going on the stream. So tell us, how did you get into creating custom content? Did you start with creative parks? I think a few people did. What was kind of your idea for starting to do custom content?
Yeah, well, when I first got back into the Tony Hawk games, well, when I first got into THUGPro, really, I think it was late 2015. The modding stuff wasn't released quite yet, and back then I was doing a lot of the just the creative park stuff using the extra little things that THUGPro allows you to do, like floating objects and stuff, and just getting creative with it that way.
Sure.
So yeah, I definitely started with the creative park stuff and just kind of just building interesting things that way. And yeah, so
Yeah, perfect.
ah,
Did you start playing with the Blender plugin in its current form, or did you use an earlier version?
I remember playing with it not long after it first came out when it was ASDF who put it together. Now it's being taken care of by KSK, but the
Yeah.
very first one was done by ASDF, and I remember playing with that one like not long after it first came out, and just keeping up with the new releases that KSK has been working on and all of that, and just keeping it going.
Sure. Was that how did you even hear about that? I don't think I was hanging around for the inception of that. How did you even hear about, like, there was modding going on and there was the ability to kind of do this stuff in Blender and whatever?
I can't even 100% remember now. I think it was just posted in the Discord back then, because
Okay.
the Discord was around for a little bit before all the whole modding thing came up. I'm pretty sure. I mean, this was a while ago, so
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was just posted in the Discord, and then people just started messing with it a little bit and just trying to figure out how to make it work,
Sure.
and just like trying to just work it all out.
Nice. So there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this that may not even understand the process of what we're talking about. So to create a custom level, for somebody that doesn't know anything about this, they're just like, oh, what's a custom level? Well, is that like you're using the Creative Park editor, or? And I would think that if anybody's watching this and seeing the visual on YouTube or live on the stream, you'd be able to understand this is way beyond what we're playing right here. This is way beyond the Creative Park
Yeah.
editor. So describe the process. I mean, what kind of what goes into this? I mean, you don't have to like rewrite your tutorial or whole book, but maybe give some people a little bit of insight into what this takes and what the process is to come up with something like what we're skating right now.
Okay, well, I guess for starters, you need to have like just a good concept of what you want to do. Like with this place, I had a good reference to work from,
Hmm.
so a reference is really, really helpful if you want to do something like this. Try to reference something real life as much as you can. So just have something to look at. But after you know what you're gonna make or like know what you want to build, then you just have to figure out how to 3D model it in Blender. Blender 2.79 is what we use. We can't use 2.8 because the plugin doesn't. It's because the whole that's a whole that's a whole other thing.
Sure.
I'm going off track, but yeah, basically you just have to model the thing out in Blender, and then once you like after you do have like the shapes taken care of, you have to mark the edges that you can grind. So like you just have to select each edge, and then you can mark rail, or there's two different ways to do it, but they basically we're talking about the same thing, just marking things that you can grind, and then you have to mark anything that's like a vert ramp. So like the quarter pipe, the top half of it or so needs to be marked with a special flag, so that it knows that when you're on it and you ollie, and it's to put you in the vert mode, like the vert camera mode, and like launch you up that way instead. So you just have to just mark that and mark the rails. And then you have to also mark wall rides, but there's also a mode in there that it's called the wall ride hack, where you just check it on and it makes everything wall rideable. So you don't necessarily have to do that, but it works the same way, where you just select walls and you just turn on a flag that lets you wall ride it. And it's just a lot of stuff like that. And then after you do that, you can export it pretty much straight into the game, and there you go, and you can test it and go back and forth and just keep iterating on what you've done.
Sure.
Sattan, do you know in total how many custom levels you've completed and released so far?
Well, Dode said, what was it, 43 earlier? My God.
So 43 is the count of all your stuff. So you've still got some of your creative parts in there. You got a couple of characters that you rigged and whatever else.
Gotcha.
But I think what Freddie's asking is in relationship to, do you have some stuff beyond the vaults that maybe, you never released, or you did something for a friend, or you know what I mean? Something like that.
I have, oh God, there's been a lot of maps that I'd never released for one reason or another. Like maybe something started crashing on me, or maybe just stuff like that, where something stopped me from finishing it the way I wanted. And like a lot of times, I'll try to fix something, and if I just can't seem to do it, I'll just put it off to the side and just start something new. So
Sure.
it's probably not the best habit, because I've just kind of let a lot of ideas just go away. Like there was one map I was trying to do for a while of Mont Saint. I'm probably saying this really wrong. Someone French is going to probably need to correct me. But Mont Saint Michel, or Mont Saint Michel. It's that it's in France. I think it's France. I don't know. I'm probably going to really butcher this.
That's all right.
Basically, it's this really cool church that's on an island that's like way out it's like on a peninsula. So like when the tide comes in, it just looks like an island, and it looks really cool. But
nice.
I mean, if you look, like, there's really cool pictures of it online. But at one point I was trying to make a map of that, and like about halfway through the building process, I had something where I couldn't figure out why it was happening, but every time I loaded it in the game, it would just crash immediately. And it's just stuff like that. Sometimes there's just a problem that you can't quite get around, or like you don't know quite what's causing it. And like, it happens. It's just, it kind of sucks, but it happens. And then, so I've lost a couple projects to that. There was that one. There's the there's the more recent one, the paper mill one, which I actually pretty much finished. It's just the lighting was crashing me for some reason.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, I'm kind of going on a tangent. Sometimes something just doesn't want to work right, and you don't quite know what the problem is.
Sure.
That
So then,
sometimes it's the way it is.
Yeah, of course. So then, of the count total, then it sounds like for the ones that you feel like are complete and finished, you have that comprehensive up on THPSX. I took a look at the volts on stream here a second ago, and the count a count there is 30. So does that seem like that's probably fair to say?
Probably. There's probably a couple in there that are like really old and don't work anymore, because there was a whole system change with an update where there was a whole format thing. So a bunch of my old levels don't work anymore. I think there's probably like 4 or 5 that aren't working anymore that I just don't really want to update, because they were like when I was first learning how to do all this stuff and didn't really know what I was doing. So they're like really kind of janky. So like,
we've got some questions along those lines. A couple of people asked about them, so
yeah, I don't feel like I would be doing them justice because like they're just like it's like when you first make something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I can make. I don't know. It's just I don't feel right really re-releasing all of my very first ones because I just don't think they're like of good quality.
Sure, that's
Like I
fair.
hate to disappoint anybody on that, but I don't really want to touch them again.
It's fair enough. Sometimes you touch
Yeah.
something so long, and and it's so old that it's just like even if the demand's there. I equate it to like a band that has like a hit or something, and then everybody wants you to play it, and you're like, no, I don't want to play that song
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So even if you have a level that's a fan favorite, if for whatever reason, like you said, you feel like your process is better now, or you feel like it's just not quite up to what you would expect from your stuff, it's just
Yeah.
tough. Yeah. um, all right. So describe then for us a little bit of your creative process. I mean, how do you get inspired to create something new?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I guess that really kind of varies by level to level. Because like in this one, I had a goal, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Because like I talked about earlier how I had a goal to make this main center park area and kind of work off of that. So like I had like reference to follow. So like what I did was I went to Google Street View a lot, and I
Sure.
took like a top-down screenshot. So I had like like as good of a layout as I could get without going there and sending a drone up in the sky myself, which I don't think the city would like very much, but that's beside the point.
Sure.
So yeah, yeah. So I took a Street View screenshot and I loaded that into GIMP or Photoshop. I use GIMP, but Photoshop is basically the same thing. And then I saved it so I can load it into Blender, and then I just started building like the framework off of that, like the shape of this brick area, the walls, figuring out how this triangle thing worked, which basically was that required like a lot of like image research, just finding a lot of photos because I could have taken pictures myself, but nowadays it's painted as perfectly gray and it's kind of boring.
Oh,
So I had to,
interesting.
yeah, so I had to I went and found older photos where it was painted all colorful and pretty,
It looks
you
way
know.
better painted and colorful, I think.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, it does. I think it might be a different color now. I feel like they painted it again, but I'm pretty sure it's just like a solid color
Huh.
these days. So, yeah, so it's just, when you're working from like a real life reference, it's just a lot of going back and forth, just like finding pictures, taking pictures, and just trying to recreate what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And then like in the case of this place, there's some areas like this big area with the wooden ramps right over kind of across for the alley from the park.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so like in here, it was really empty, and like the real life version is really empty. So I just had to fill it in with just like a couple of extra things, and like these backyards, it's just I couldn't actually get reference to that, so I kind of had to make something up. So a couple pools works out really well. It's just like it's just like finding and making a bunch of puzzle pieces and then fitting them together, basically.
Nice. That's a good way to say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that transitions into our next question. Where do you pick up your ideas for your original levels?
Okay. I mean, well, it still kind of varies, but like when I'm not working from like a photo reference or like I have something like that, sometimes I'll draw something out. Like I used to do a lot of sketchbook stuff and just like drawing in general. So like sometimes I'll draw like a top down view or like an isometric like view of something, and then I'll just model that.
Hmm.
Like or some other times I'll break it down a little bit and I'll start making like separate assets. Like I'll make a couple buildings, I'll make a couple ramps, and then I just start kind of copying, pasting them, and just kind of puzzle piecing them together. Not very much different from how the normal creative part works, actually. Just
Sure.
like having a bunch of pieces, and then you can just Lego them together.
Hmm. That's
So, and
awesome.
it's yeah, when it's that way, it's just a lot. It's just a lot of like playing around and trying different stuff and seeing what works and what doesn't. I mean, there's no like real form to that, you know. It's just kind of bullshit in it. But like when I don't actually plan it out, then I am kind of bullshitting it. I can do it both ways.
Nice. Yeah, I can agree. Yeah, with the creative park stuff too. That's the stuff that I always try to. I'll sometimes approach the creative park if I build one with a concept in mind, and then try to get it to all fit in. And then other times I'm just like kind of free form, freestyle, and just be like,
Yeah.
okay, I know I've got this set of pieces to work with. I want it to kind of have this, and then start just iterating on it and playing with it. Sounds like you do that on a lot of the original stuff too. We could switch
Yeah.
to a different original level, but I don't know if we have them all installed because I know you have so many.
Yeah, I
Satin.
mean, apparently I didn't have this one installed before we started. I don't know how that happened because I clearly should, and I clearly did, but
Yeah.
I had to re-download it. So, yeah, I mean, you can switch level if you want. I don't really know which one you had in mind.
Up to you, Freddie. If you want to switch or if you want to stay here, that's fine too. I don't. I have multiple. Do you have THPS Plaza, Freddie, or let me think of
Let me
another one.
check. Yeah, I have that.
Okay, I have that as well. So you could give that a shot for something because
I
that
don't-
one's out of your mind, right?
I actually don't even know which version I have of that one because that one was kind of a weird one because it's I don't know, like that's blah, blah, blah. Oh God, I can't talk. Going too fast. I'm sorry. That was one where I actually kept working on it after I released the first one. So like I probably have a much later version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How about
You guys
Pier?
have
Pier should be good.
Oh, Freddie doesn't have Pier.
I don't have
Oh.
that.
Oh crap.
Do we have what, Freddie?
THUGPro 500.
That should be a good one.
I
That's an
do.
interesting one.
I have that one.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay, maybe what the heck? Why don't I have my own levels? That's the second one. Did something like, I don't think I even updated that one. Well, I'll be back in a second. I'm gonna download it.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right.
We can continue the questions. or
Yeah,
whatever
sure,
while we're doing
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
So then, how many hours on average would you say? I mean, obviously, each level is going to be a little bit different, depending on what it is. But what do you think on average it takes you to start from start and then finish a level?
It really kind of depends on like the whole scope of the level too. Like depending on what I want to do. Is it a big level? Is it a small level? Do I have a goal? Like there's a lot of factors in that. But really, God, I don't even know in terms of hours. I easily put in like a weeks worth of work on a fair few of my levels.
So you're saying figuring like an average of like an 8-hour day or something like that. So that'd be like 80 hours going into it.
Probably something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Like.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it doesn't have to be that way too, because some of my levels are a lot smaller, and like the whole like scope of it all is much more simple. Like the one we're trying to play right now, or the one I'm trying to play right now, the THUGPro 500. That one I think was only like maybe a week or two, not like 8-hour days per se, just like in my spare time, sort of thing.
Got it.
So like it all really depends on what you want to do. It's just like if you want to do a big grand thing, then you can sit at it for like several months and keep going. Or you can do like a little thing and you can just work on one for like 2 or 3 weeks. So
Sure.
yeah.
Have you actually branched out into creating custom content for other games? And if so, which ones?
I was for a little bit with Skater XL, which is still a really cool game, and like I still kind of keep up with it a little bit here and there, but my computer barely handled working on that game because I had to work with Unity and then Blender at the same time, and and then working with Steam all at once, and it was just I kind of got sick of doing all that, but I would get back into doing that again later once I get a better computer. But yeah, no, I mean I've also been keeping up with the stuff that's been going on in Session too, which both games really are looking great. So I still keep up with it, but I haven't done anything myself in other games, at least not for a long time.
Yeah, I'm enjoying both of those games as well. I have Skater XL. It's coming a long way. They're doing some good development. And then, gosh, just this week for Session, they released I can't remember what they're calling it, but it's the control scheme that works like Skate, the Skate series.
Yeah, the Skate scheme. Yeah.
And that is absolutely game changer for me because I didn't like the
Yeah.
control scheme on Session. So anyway, and I know there's a big modding, so I haven't played with any of the mods. Actually, to true confessions, I haven't tried any of the mods on either of those games, Skater XL or Session, and I know both of them have pretty good community for modding. So
Yeah, the Skater XL one in particular is friggin' massive right now. I think the last time I checked, there are like almost 40,000 people in their Discord. It's like
wow,
it's insane. It's insane how much is going on there. It's like I can't even keep up anymore.
that is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Many of the names of your levels seem to be kind of just straightforward approaches, not overly complicated or name anything fancy. We have Pure, we have Resort. Is that like a conscious thing where you're kind of paying homage to Neversoft and some of their titles of their levels? Because theirs were always school, college, foundry, places like
Yeah.
that. Is that an intentional thing for you, or is it just something, hey, I don't want to have to put a lot of thought into this. This is just,
It's absolutely just me being lazy. Like I don't want to go trying to make up a whole bunch of lore or try to make up a really cool name for like whatever city I'm working on. Or like whatever I'm doing. That's just a lot of effort.
got it.
And I never put that much thought into it. So it's definitely a laziness thing. Why? I just downloaded the level again and it's not letting me do it. I don't know what's going on.
Let's switch to a different level, Freddy, if we
Yeah.
can.
All right.
Like that one should have been like all right because I didn't do anything to that one after, but I don't know what's happening here.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
timed
have,
out. I had to actually restart myself, so
Oh, okay.
You guys have Taco Bell installed?
I do.
Oh, I better have Taco Bell. Oh my
I'll go
god.
there.
Yeah, let me. Okay, just in case I don't have Taco Bell, I'm gonna download it anyway. Just to be one step ahead.
Okay, Sattan, we have let's see here. What would you say is the
Okay.
learning curve for the average person to install Blender and the required plugin for THUGPro items? Is it fairly approachable, or does it seem to require a more advanced skill set?
I mean, honestly, I'd say it's pretty approachable. Like, before this game came along and I could actually do stuff with it, I had zero experience with the stuff at all. Like, this game taught me how to do everything. So, I would absolutely say it's approachable, but you have to like really put some time into it, because like, there's still a lot to learn. So I'd say that's like, there's a little bit of a curve to it, but it's definitely within possibility. There's not like you can pick this up in after a little while, for sure.
I got to tell you, for my experience, I've built a lot of custom or creative parks over the years, and I installed Blender, and even with a Scream Rick version, I tried to do a couple of levels from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. I found it really hard. So I'm just gonna say,
Well,
I think it depends on who you are, because oh man,
Yeah,
I didn't give up either. I mean, I know I asked you some questions and some other content creators, but for me, it's a tedious process. You got to have a lot of patience, I think. So.
Yeah, and also I think it's a bit different when you're working with porting something versus doing something from scratch, because when you're working with something that's ported from another game or that's like not really built for this, it can get kind of complicated. And like especially if you're working with something that's like way newer, where there's a lot like Tony Hawk 5, where it's like there's a lot of different shaders and stuff going on, a lot of different layers to everything. It's just there's a lot more to think about in that sort of aspect, you know?
Sure.
So like, but like with my stuff, with like what I do most of the time is like I'm more building the stuff from scratch and just like kind of working off of my own stuff instead of trying to retrofit someone or like some older work into this new system. So like, it basically, I don't know. I think that's a lot easier to really get into than porting something else.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
maybe I just took the wrong approach then. You're
I mean-
telling me to not give up, aren't you?
Oh yeah, no, don't give up.
So for you, out of all the levels, we talked about this briefly, but what's your favorite custom level that you've worked on? Like, what's maybe I don't know if it has to be the one that you're maybe the most proud of, but what's the one that was like this one was really fun? This you really enjoyed kind of the process, and if the answer to that is the Paradise Park one that we were on before, whatever you there's no wrong answer is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, Paradise Park was really a good one because I felt so just what's the word I'm looking for? I, I don't know. I felt like really good about that one when it was finally done. Like I actually accomplished what I wanted to do. But another one that would be that I found really fun is the one for what did I call it? I think it's called Main Street, where it's another part of my city.
Yeah,
And
I have that one.
that
as
I
well.
mean, yeah, and that one I think was fun for a lot of the same reasons in that I was just constantly building something directly out of my city.
Hmm.
Or it's like something that I was familiar with, just like over and over again, just going through each building. And like I don't know, when I talk about it, it sounds like it might be a little bit mundane and kind of boring, but I don't know. I felt like really satisfied with that because after I finished it and like I released it and I played it a little while, every time I drove in the city, I went through that little street and I just had like this weird deja vu moment where I'm like, fuck, I just did it. Like I did tricks through here
Yeah.
on a game. And it's like, there's this really weird sort of like uncanniness about it. And like, it's kind of cool, but kind of weird, but also kind of cool. So
That's cool insight. I wouldn't have
yeah.
ever thought about that aspect of it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that happens with Paradise Park as well, but even more so with the Main Street one because that's a street I drive down fairly regularly. So like, I just always see it, and I always feel like it's just kind of strange, but yeah.
Nice.
What would be your favorite or your least favorite custom level that you have personally created, and why?
My least favorite. That's a hard question, and I feel like I'm gonna make one or two people upset with the answer I want to give because I know like people actually kind of like the level. It was like the third or fourth one I've ever done. It was crap. What did I call it? N- Uh, it was Neo something. Um,
See if I can find
wow. It's crap. It was Honolulu 2. That's what it was.
it. Oh man, you're killing me.
I know, but like the whole thing about that one is like it was like my third or fourth level I'd ever done, and it was really, really big, and I completely like bit off more than I could chew with making that one. Like I had so many ideas I was trying to put into it, and it all just kind of spiraled out of control in terms of like how it was built, you know?
Yeah.
So like I understand why people like it because it's so big and you can do these really big jumps all around and stuff, and like
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But like from my point of view, that one is just like really painful for me to look at because it's so janky.
Oh, it's so fun.
I know, and I feel bad. I
Oh,
actually
don't feel
bad
bad.
for
Don't
saying
feel
that.
bad. No.
Well, I mean, that's not. I guess that's not the right word for it. But like, I just have this much different view about that one than everyone who's just played it. I guess versus having actually built it.
Sure.
So it's just I'm always a little conflicted about that one.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites of yours, and I know you and I have talked about this offline before. I think it's great, but that I get it. I understand if you feel like it's buggy or glitchy or whatever else, it makes sense why you would say that. So,
Yeah, and it's not even that it's like buggy or glitchy necessarily. I mean, there was probably some stuff in there that was weird. It's been a long time since I've played it, so I can't really remember. But it's just like I did it at such a low skill level, or
got
like
it.
when I was like very very early into all this. So like just I don't know. It's just like always like in hindsight sort of thing, you know. It's just like where did like? It's like looking at drawings you did 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, I
Yeah.
I totally see what you're saying. It's almost like, you almost want to revisit it and like see how you could make it better or improve it or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
So then, well, I already know the answer to this, but and we can probably this will be a good segue to jump to this level, Freddie. But do you have any current levels that you're working on? and what does that look like, or that you are releasing, shall we
Well,
say?
I actually tried to release one a little bit ago, but it was my computer was being weird for me. But like, I'm honestly not doing as much in this, like with the maps these days. I'm doing a little bit, but I built a map. Well, I modeled something to take a 3D render of it a month or two ago, and like halfway through building that, I was like, screw it, I'm just make this into a level, and then kept building that, and then I just made another level out of it. So but yeah, I
Nice.
do have one more that we've got here that I'm trying to
Yeah,
release, but it didn't go through.
we'll take a minute here and reveal right now on the podcast your new level
Oh
penthouse.
Lord. Don't get too excited. It's not a crazy one. It's a pretty small one, honestly, but it's pretty neat.
It is pretty neat. I ran through it earlier, and it's kind of got some cruise ship vibes.
Yeah,
A little
same.
bit, yeah. It's in the shape of the place, but yeah. Like I really modeled this more to just look kind of like interesting, I guess. Like there's a lot of like I don't know. I hate using the word vaporwave really, but I was kind of aiming for that sort of like look, I guess, with like the marble and like this thing with the face on it, which is the where is he? He's around here somewhere. The
Oh, I
guy.
like the guy with the face. It reminded me of what's that place in Stonehenge?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the face is in here too. He's around a couple times.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
coming soon to THPSX for everybody listening and checking us out on the stream. This is Sattan's newest level, Penthouse, and it's like I played it for maybe 5 minutes ahead of this, so I'm not even familiar with all of it. But
Yeah. So, there's really not too much in it. It's a pretty small level, and but I feel like it looks kind of like a PlayStation 1 thing, but in a good way. You know what I mean?
yeah.
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 Now I know we had chatted about this earlier, so I have to throw it out there for everybody that's asked. You have quite a few levels in the THPSX vaults that are still in the old format, where a person would have to replace typically Burnside to play. Do you have any plans to update those to the new format so it's easier to play them?
Oh Lord, yeah. I really don't know. I'm just like I'm more interested in like moving forward and doing new stuff than trying to keep all of my old stuff alive, you know? Especially considering I was so inexperienced at the time and so I really don't want to make any promises on updating any of my old stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't know if it's gonna happen.
Darn it! I wanted Honolulu, and that's your least favorite. I was just
Oh
kidding.
God. Hey, someone might be able to convince me to just give them the blend file so they can convert it, because I really just don't want to be, I just don't want to mess with it anymore.
There you go. I love it. There's a
Yeah,
couple other good ones too that are old, like Dead Mall and Graffiti Den 2, and yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
okay. Have you ever gone online in THUGPro and witnessed rooms where people are playing one of your levels? And if you have, does that give you some sort of sense of fulfillment, or do you find creating these levels tend to be more kind of a personal expression? And if others enjoy it, that's great, but maybe that's not necessarily your primary focus.
It's kind of somewhere in the middle, really. Like maybe not quite the middle. It's mostly just like me trying to just a self fulfillment sort of thing. Like I do see people play them online sometimes, and I'll join in and we'll like maybe talk about it a little bit, and like that does bring me some like joy about it. Like I'm happy people are enjoying it, but like I don't really design or like make these things for other people, if that makes sense. I really
Yep.
just do it just for myself because I like enjoy doing it and I like just the whole concept of doing it all. So it's definitely more selfish reasons, I guess.
I don't know if that's selfish. I think
Oh,
any
I
art,
know. Yeah, I'm just being a smartass. It's really more about just me trying to satisfy myself.
Sure.
Now your Taco Bell level that we were just on, it became quite the source of interest on Reddit when it was shared on the Taco Bell subreddit.
Oh God, I remember that.
Was that done strictly for fun, or did you have more of a purpose than that?
um, it was sponsored. No, it wasn't. No, Well, I'm pretty sure I was the one who actually posted it there. So yeah.
Just to kind of
Um,
see if anybody was into it, or
yeah, like I made it, and then I realized there was a Taco Bell subreddit, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what they'll like, because I had just finished that level, and I just posted a screenshot, and they liked it okay, you know. So it was yeah, there wasn't any real planning behind it so much as I had finished it and it was like, oh, I can show it to these people, and then they liked it, you know.
yeah. It's interesting. I love it. Yeah, I remember when you talked about that. I was pretty. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy that you got all of this traction off of people that probably um, don't even necessarily play the game or know anything about the game or whatever else. But for those that
Yeah.
did, they're like, whoa, crazy! Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Taco Bell, what? You know? So,
Yeah, yeah. It got a little bit of conversation about it, and it was really interesting. And like I think there's there's a lot of people like on Twitter posting like stuff for the game where like it's a bunch of like crazy crossover stuff. I think Freddie sent something to in the chat earlier about it where like there was one that was it was like a Sonic level with an Undertale character riding a Soul Calibur board, and it's just it gets really, really bonkers. There's so many just silly videos out there about this stuff now.
yeah, it's crazy. So when you create a level, do you mainly focus on the layout, or are aesthetics more important to you?
It really kind of bounces back and forth. It really just kind of depends on what I feel like doing. Like in this one, I guess it was kind of in the middle. Like I didn't put too much into it. Like I didn't really go way deep into all of it. In fact, there's some parts that are a little janky. Like there's a window over in the indoor part that looks really bad, but I didn't feel like fixing it.
Gotcha.
So I guess primarily I just want it to play well more
Yeah.
than anything. And like if some things look a little weird or some things look a little janky and I can't quite figure out how to fix it or I just can't be bothered, which happens more often than I'd like to admit, then I have no problem with leaving that. I just want people to like enjoy the playing the map instead of looking at the map.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, Now, to date, you have largely done original creations, but you have also done recreations from other games as well as ports from other games. Which of these three approaches is your favorite?
What like doing an original one versus like
Versus
um
Like slappies from Skate.
yeah,
okay. Well, I guess the like when I do like a game recreation, it's a lot. The process is very similar to how I do like a real life location. It's just a lot of like I'm going back and forth between that game and this game. Excuse me, and just pretty much just building it from the ground up again. So, um, as for which approach I like more, it's kind of hard to like say really. They're both kind of I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things I kind of bounce back and forth on. You know, like sometimes I just feel like building something that's like a recreation of like something that I can't access. Like with the Skate 2 one, and there was a Street Skater 2 map I did as well. The main reason I did those was because there was no real way to port those because of certain limitations. And like with Skate 2, we don't really, or well, I guess with both of them really, we don't have a way to get them directly.
Right.
So like I had that sort of motivation behind it, and I guess that's a little bit fulfilling. Just like trying to recreate something we can't get to, so we have some sort of like sense of what it would be like. But
Sure.
like I don't know, I really just kind of go back and forth between all of them. You know, sometimes I just feel like doing one over the other.
Yeah. Whatever the mood suits at the time.
Yeah,
It sounds like. Yeah.
exactly.
Nice. What's one aspect or principle of content creation that you wish more fellow content creators would focus on and put more effort into, if that makes sense?
Like and with just like the people who make stuff for this game, basically, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So, like, if there's a principle of the way that somebody creates content, like maybe somebody focuses a little bit too much on aesthetics, or maybe
Oh,
they're
okay.
just like, oh, I feel like I could bring over I'll use an example of one that I've never even seen or heard of, but like, let's say somebody took a level from Doom and brought it over in here, and it's just not fun or playable. What is there anything like that where you're like, maybe custom content creators might be a little more thoughtful on a principle of this, you know.
Um, I mean, I don't really want to say like there's like a specific thing that like bothers me like that. I mean, I'm just happy for people to do whatever they want to do in this game and just make it as crazy as it is. But I guess with your point on like a Doom map, or like say someone ports something that isn't like inherently meant for a skating game, or like is like from a first person game where everything's like really tight, you know, like because it's like not modeled to be for this intention. Those sorts of things, like those kind of bother me a little bit because like there's this, I don't know, it's this, I don't know. Um, I'm not quite sure where I was going with that. It's just like that sort of thing. It's just like it feels like you have to add a lot more work into it to like make things like play well, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally
Because
does.
like other yeah, because otherwise you're just exploring it and just like kind of riding around in a place that's really tight and you can't do anything. And it's cool to look at at like other places from other games in this game, but at the same time, the fact that you can't do too much because of like maybe the map wasn't really designed for this purpose, I do think that kind of takes away from the experience a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like I feel like if it can be done right too, because like like if you just gotta add stuff a little bit just to make it so like you can play it. Like the Dark Souls map that got released a while back. That's a really good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Where like it clearly wasn't meant to play in this game, but they modified it just enough to where you clearly know it's the Dark Souls like area, but there's actually things that you can do in there. So like that's really I just feel like if anyone's thinking of doing a map like that, I think that's something to consider. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
You're being very kind and gracious with your words. I know exactly what you're saying.
Now, when playing through some of your original creations, such as the Junkyard in Chroma City, one can't help but notice how the gameplay really flows and feels kind of natural, as if it had been shipped with the game rather than custom content. How much of your level design philosophy picks up inspiration from Neversoft?
Probably a fair bit. It's like I think Junkyard's a really good example of that because in that particular example, I think the most of the effort I put into that was for like making things skate well. Because there was a lot of like back and forth testing where I'd add something and see if it worked, and if it didn't work, I'd get rid of it, and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And I don't know. I just feel like over time, as I've done so many of these things, I've just slowly kind of accumulated a sense for like what design works and what design doesn't really work. Because like there's a lot of things, just like even simple stuff like how far a quarter pipe needs to be from another quarter pipe to transfer it, or like how high a rail needs to be, or just like even basic stuff like that. It's not inherently obvious like from the very beginning, you know.
Yep.
So it's just like as time goes on, I feel like I've just accumulated more and more knowledge, or like more of a sense of how they did it back then, and like like how like what sort of things they were looking for. So yeah, I definitely think it was influenced.
Yeah, I know for me for sure a big proponent for me of a good level as well as a good creative part because I'm so familiar with those is this sense of flow. Does the thing flow well? Are we
Yeah,
constantly running into stuff? Can we, like you said, can we transfer naturally from one quarter pipe to another? Is there a good line? Is there a good transfer? Is there those types of things? I know for me it sounds like we're very similar in our approach there. I always try to be very mindful of that. If it's
yeah,
gonna just be constant dead ends, running into stuff, it feels cramped, there's no good flow to it. To me, that's not interesting, and that doesn't play well within this game. So that's really cool to hear that you're, thoughtful about that.
yeah. I mean, well, I mean, it's really just something that's kind of come with experience, like really, because when in my very first couple levels, the ones that I don't really want to revive from the old system, like I had no sense of that at all, and there's a lot of things where like you would just kind of run into a wall and just like it would kill your combo or
Sure.
things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really just something that I've kind of just gained a sort of sense in as time went on.
Yeah. So one of the more unique methods employed that you actually alluded to earlier, I think you were talking about it with one of the maps you were trying to do with the French word that you butchered, which I won't even try to
Oh,
attempt.
yeah. Sorry
But
about that.
no, I wasn't making fun of you at all or giving you a hard time. But you use and you've explained this also in the Paradise Park. But you've used Google Maps, and in that case, I think you actually used it to help create 3D models of the real life locations, such as Main
Yeah,
Street,
yeah.
Paradise Park, etc. How much of an asset has Google Maps? Can that be for a custom content creator? It sounds like
Oh man. Yeah, that's like if you're looking to make a real life location, or that's invaluable entirely. Like you need that because
yeah,
just I mean just something as simple as getting a top down satellite view of a location that gives you so much information to work off of.
yeah,
Like, I mean, oh God. Like, if you didn't have that, what would you be doing? You'd be Googling images for this and maybe finding something or maybe not. Or you'd have to, like, try and draw it out yourself and kind of measure it or guess it. And no, that just saves you a whole lot of time right there. A lot of time and a lot of effort is just being able to go into Google Street View or Google Maps and work from that. And there's also, like, that's not the only use I have for it either. Is the top-down view thing is the in Main Street in particular, I would just go into like the street view mode where like, you're like on the camera that's on the little the Google Maps cars that go around,
yeah,
and I would just look at the buildings, and I would try to get good angles of the buildings and take screenshots of them, and then use those as my textures. You can see that in the Main Street level, where like a lot of the buildings are done mostly like that. It's really simple. It's just like one wall with a picture on it, and that's it.
right.
And I know I could go in deeper and like maybe add another texture for the windows and give it an environment map and just go into it. But like really, there's not. I don't believe that I need to go that deep into it, because
Sure.
like I feel like this, yeah, just doing that one picture just gives the point enough for me. Like that satisfies me enough. So, but yeah, that's just another way that it can be incredibly useful to someone making a map like this.
It almost makes you wonder if Neversoft had those tools at their disposal once upon a time. I mean, some of their trips that they took to real world locations were kind of became famous. I mean, they would send people to Moscow and Berlin and all these real world locations and take
Yeah,
tons and tons of still pics
yeah.
and everything else, and they didn't have drones or any of that. So,
Mhm.
you almost wonder if they had that at their disposal. Now. What would they have done, or how would that have looked? So it's
Oh
interesting.
yeah. Yeah, because like a lot of I guess the main downside to using like Google Street View for stuff is like the image quality isn't going to be great.
Sure.
But like aside from that, these days you can just get so much reference really easily from that, and
Yeah.
like that's just incredibly valuable.
Satin, how
Yes.
important would you say collaboration is among content creators? Do you prefer yourself to work on a piece by yourself, or do you enjoy learning and collaborating with other content creators? For example, the THPSX Plaza level that was intended to be a community effort.
Yeah, that one was I don't know, like I feel like only like two people really were into that idea back when I tried to do it, and like I guess peop it's kind of a weird situation to me because like on like people do collaborate behind the scenes, like people ask each other questions, maybe someone has a problem with something and they know someone might be able to help, and so they like communicate about stuff like that. But in terms of like building an entire map as a collaboration from the ground up, I don't know if that's really the best way to go about it, at least for me, because like there's a lot of just going back and forth, and then you have to keep like, but like I don't know, it's just there's a lot more different different things to think about when more than one person is involved. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I just find it to be a lot easier for me to just kind of do things on my own mostly. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not against it working with other people necessarily. It's just like I I haven't had much success with it in the past. Let's put it that way.
It seems like there's some content creators that end up with some skill sets. Like, for example, Skate Ace. Shout out to Skate Ace. He's kind of known to really understand how to do some scripting, and so I know
Yeah.
that a lot of people will use him as a reference point to make something move or animate, or like in the case of the THUGPro 500 map that we were on. Kind of had the
Yeah.
race car circling the track, and I think he assisted on that. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Oh yeah.
so that seems like that's a little bit more like isolated, and that would be easier to work with, to collaborate
Yeah.
as opposed to actually the
was-
layout and stuff.
Yeah, that was really a bit of a different sort of situation, really. Like, because I'm terrible with scripting. You give me a bunch of scripts and like I'll get legitimate anxiety. Like I cannot figure that out at all. So like in the case of Thugber 500, I just focused on the building things, like the physical shapes and like how everything looked and stuff. And then I went to Ace with the idea of having a car go around it, and I let him handle that. So like in that sense, the collaboration can be good if like if like each person has a specific strength that they can play towards, or like they know that like one guy's good at this one thing, one guy's good at this other thing. Let's come together and make something better. If that's a much better way to collaborate. I think that works out really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, so, do you feel as if the set of creative freedom one needs to create intricate custom levels, such as you have, using Blender, other tools, if it's Unity for Skater XL, whatever it is, does that end up translating into kind of similar critical type thinking for skills that could be used? I guess in the real world, if you want to call it that. What is the real world anymore? But can that translate so that you have some critical thinking skills, some determination for use at your day job or school or any other types of real life? Do you find that to be a thing?
Kind of. I think. I really think like a lot of the stuff like that. This like doing the stuff taught me like over the years in terms of stuff like that is like it gave me a lot more of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm able to stick through things to like the end, you know? Like it taught me to like stick through to the plan
Mm-hmm.
and just like until I can actually like complete the task, you know?
Sure.
So like I feel like that really kind of like carried over in some ways, or like as like I don't know, that's like one of the big things that like I feel like I've noticed with myself after learning all this stuff. But like aside from like that sort of thing, just like doing this stuff and like getting the skills in Blender, that's just like that's a really big thing, because that's allowed me to do so much more stuff after like learning all the stuff in this game, that like just being able to like sit down and like learn a skill like that is like a big deal to me, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Satin, one of your more recent endeavors has been
Oh, here we
experimenting
go.
experimenting with VHS tape looping. Does the same
Oh god.
creative imagination you have used in Tony Hawk, does it help you out in that realm?
Um, it's a lot of the things I learned in working for this game definitely surprisingly somehow carried over to that. That's like oh god, that's like a whole other subject, you know. There's like a lot of crap I can talk about in terms of that sort of thing. But
I should have actually
But,
got some to play on stream. I forgot to do that. So
oh yeah, yeah, but that's all right. We can link my Instagram. It's full of stuff like that.
yeah,
But,
for sure, we will. Definitely will.
yeah, but yeah, but like one of the like there's the just knowing how to do stuff in Blender just allowed me to carry over into that sort of thing, and like because like all of, like when I do that the videotape VHS like glitch art stuff, I do render all of my stuff out in the final form in Blender, and like I do a lot of stuff with Blender in addition to that, just to make art instead of like trying to make like something playable in a game. So it's just there's definitely a bridge there. It's kind of like a vague sort of connection, but like the skills did definitely cover between this to that. But like that, there's oh god, there's so much stuff going on in that sort of thing that like oh, there's so much to it.
I love it.
Yeah,
Um,
like I I couldn't even like tell you like the entire story of how I got into that. That's like a whole stream in itself. That's
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Sure. Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, we'll link up Sattan's Instagram so you can check out some of his work in regards to these other endeavors. His VHS tape looping is this crazy, like gets into sound, and I know you've had DJs and different artists and stuff approach you because of the stuff that you're doing. It's kind of highly
Yeah.
experimental, and so if anybody's interested in that and wants to learn more, we'll definitely link that stuff up so that they can find out a little bit more, and I'm sure they can get a hold of you and chat about that as well. So
Yeah. Basically, the short version of it all, it's a lot of like just messing with old crap. Messing with like old VHS tapes and like DVD players and just like any weird old electronics that aren't really useful anymore, and just trying to make them do things they shouldn't.
that's funny.
And like there's like a whole scene of that stuff now. Like there's people like me who just like break tapes and just do crazy stuff to them. There's like really expensive like video mixers and synthesizers, and like there's like this whole visual synth community now that like I've just kind of stumbled upon by just breaking a tape one day.
That's so
It's
funny.
really kind of crazy how it all is, because like it's so much going on.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, it's interesting stuff. So yeah, go check it out if you want to watch me go break some shit.
That concludes Freddie and I's question regimen. So we've got some questions from Discord from a couple people that sent these over.
Okay.
So we've got a few questions from Warpig and a few questions from Nevada. So let's start with the first question from Warpig, and he asked, "What makes a level great or memorable in your mind?"
Ooh, there's so many ways that can go, because I guess it really depends on the intention, because like in this level that we're in right now, this is a pretty simple small level, but like I don't know, that's one thing, but like then you look at talking about Larxian's work again, like if you go look at that, that's like a whole achievement, that's like a big thing,
Sure.
so like it's just oh man, it's a hard thing. It's a hard question to answer. It's just like you can just tell if someone put a lot of thought or effort into a level like that, and I think that really carries over. And I know this is funny coming from me because a lot of my levels are actually can be kind of low effort. Like there's a variance in quality sometimes, I will admit.
Sure.
Yeah, but like I don't know, like when you see something that like you can just tell when somebody put a lot of effort into something.
Yeah.
And like that's not just for maps, that's for like the characters and like everything else, It's just there's just something about it, you can just tell when they did, and like it really just it makes it a whole thing.
Sure.
Here's another question from Warpig. As a content creator, do you feel that the Tony Hawk community motivates you to keep on creating for THPS?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I wouldn't be doing it if people weren't playing it, Like I said earlier that I mainly do this stuff for myself, or like not really necessarily for myself, but like just for like I'm self-motivated, I guess would be a good way to put it. But like if people weren't out there like playing this stuff or doing more stuff and just like making this whole community what it is, then yeah, I don't know what I'd be doing. So yeah, they absolutely do like motivate me to a good degree to keep doing this stuff.
And you definitely have some pretty good numbers on a lot of your downloads. I just sorted online. We're showing it on stream right now. Paradise Park, you've got 973 downloads and 800 downloads on Taco Bell, and Super Duper Gigapart is 742 downloads. So there's people playing these.
Yeah, like I saw when I went to re-download Paradise Park earlier, I saw like over 900, and I was like, whoa, when did that happen? 'Cause, like I find it hard to keep up sometimes. I really had no idea how many people were playing these things, but yeah, people definitely are. I've gotten over 1,000 downloads with just like 2 or 3 maps alone. So
Yep, it's awesome. So let's see, one more from Warpig, and he says, as far as customization goes, what other video games come close to THPS, built-in game customization? Is there any other game that you're familiar with or that that goes deeper into the custom realm?
Like in terms of like the the modding stuff, is that I think that's what he's asking.
He's saying built-in in-game customization, so I'm guessing probably like a really robust like create a skater or something along those lines. Like you've got to create a park in the Tony Hawk games.
Yeah.
So I think he's saying something that highly customized game itself, not necessarily modding community.
Oh man, that's kind of a hard question. I mean, yeah, I don't really like. Yeah, I'm a little bit stumped on that one. Like other games that like are really with a really robust creating thing. I mean,
I know one of those would be the Far Cry series. They have a pretty robust level creator.
oh really? I haven't played Cry in a long time, so I had no idea about that. I know this is a little bit similar to how THUGPro is, but I know you all remember Revolt, that old RC car racing game.
That one I did not play.
Oh man, oh man! I said that and I just heard silence. And that went completely over your heads. But yeah, basically there's a little like modding thing with that game as well, where it's like kind of similar to this, where they have a Blender plugin and they can import custom stuff.
Oh, nice.
And it's yeah, so like there's other games out there that are doing this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's all these like tightly knit communities out there like that. You just got to know like what they are and what to search for.
Sure.
And I guess another game kind of like that. That's I feel like I'm kind of not quite answering the question anymore.
No, you're fine.
Okay, but yeah, another game that I actually keep up with a lot more these days is it's a Open TTD, or a Transport Tycoon Deluxe. Is that game was it's old as hell. It's like from 1994, but
Wow.
recently, yeah, oh yeah, it's almost as old as I am. But as of the past couple of years, there's been a community keeping that one up, and now it's available for free. There's a lot of modding support. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it, and it's a really cool game. Like, it's a really like slow-paced kind of like micromanagement sort of game, which like I know that's not for everybody, but I really enjoy it, and I enjoy that there's like a whole big community of people following that.
Sure.
So, yeah.
All right, we have a question here submitted by Nevada.
Okay.
Any thoughts on revisiting or remaking your Honolulu design?
Oh, there it is again.
It says, I'm sure that would be grueling given the loss of the original blend files, but would a reimagining ever be on the table?
I actually have to look for that blend file. I'm pretty sure I lost it, but it could be buried in like this. I have this folder called THUGPro test levels on my desktop, and it's just like everything that I've done ever since I started in this game, and it's not sorted at all.
Yeah.
So it might be deep in there. I just have to search for it. But
Yeah.
I really don't want to go through all that effort.
So
just-
yeah, Sarge says in chat, and we'll get to chat questions here in a second. But Sarge says that he'd be willing to do a conversion of Honolulu to the new format with warps included. So there you go. There's an offer for somebody taking you up on your offer to make the blend file available. So
I might talk to you about that later, Sarge. I have to see if I actually have the file to begin with.
nice. Okay. Let's see. Another question from Nevada from Discord. What feature or functionality would you most like to see brought to the Thug Tools Blender plugin?
Oh, to the Blender plugin. Oh man.
This would be for KSK.
Yeah, this is God. I really don't have much of a suggestion there. I mean, pretty much everything I need is right there. I haven't really run into a situation where I haven't been able to do something. I guess like with the scripting stuff, maybe like there's a lot of stuff I can't do with scripting because I can't do that. So, yeah, I guess aside from stuff to make that easier, I guess I don't know. I really don't have much to say there. It's hard for me to like say something specific, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And here's the final question from Nevada. Has
Okay.
any player or video changed the way you fundamentally think about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater level design?
This is coming back to like the video question from a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago. It was like 45 minutes ago. Wow. Yeah, it's hard for me to say because like I'm not really that deep into the video stuff, you know. Like God, I'm really kind of drawing a blank there.
That's
Like
all right.
I don't really have much of an answer for that sort of thing.
No worries.
Yeah.
All right, so we're turning it over to chat right now. We've got one question from LED or LED, he likes to be known as infrared, and he says, "Would you?" I'm gonna recraft this question a little bit so that it makes sense to those listening on voice. So right now, as you had stated earlier, the Blender Tools plugin to help with this custom content creation is only available for an older version of Blender. They came out with a new release for 2.8. Have you played with 2.8 that much, Sattan, for some of your other endeavors? And would you like to see that? Would you like to see that tool updated for 2.8? Would that be a beneficial thing? Is it an easier version of it to use? What are kind of some of your thoughts around that?
I've used it a little bit with my other like VHS stuff, but honestly, more often than not, I just stick with 2.79. But I think that's mostly because the one of the big changes that happened when Blender went into 2.8 is it changed the rendering engines in it, because in 2.79 you have Blender Render and you have Cycles. Blender Render is what the game uses for the most part. I guess that's probably not entirely accurate, but for the most part that's what you're going to be using.
Okay.
Like you can use Cycles for like lighting and stuff, but for the most part you're going to be in Blender Render. And in 2.8, they completely get rid of Blender Render, and they replace it with Eevee, which is another different rendering engine. It works completely differently, and it's basically it wouldn't be compatible. I think, at least not without a ton of work.
Sure.
But and I like really with just how long I've been been learning like the Blender render system, I do find it a little hard to jump into 2.8, because I mean I do, and I'm learning more of the stuff that's going on in it as time goes on. But if I'm just trying to mess around, or like if I actually have a goal in mind or like something I want to complete, I'm still using 2.79. So but if the plugin got updated to a 2.8, I would certainly have a lot more incentive to learn it, which would be beneficial for me in the long run. So I definitely would like to see it updated. But as of right now, I'm pretty okay with how it is. Like, I don't really mind it being on an older version.
Sure. Any other questions from chat?
Uh-oh.
Nice.
Did I lose? Okay.
Nice and quiet. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought I lost connection.
No. All right. Well, it doesn't look like there's any other questions from chat. Some people submitted their stuff ahead of time. So, gosh, Sattan, thank you so much for your time. It's been really fun to get into your brain here. And
thanks
so,
for having me on.
Yeah, of course. With that, is there anything that you would like to say, or if you want to shout out your Instagram again and some of the stuff that you're doing there? Do you have anything going on that you might want to let the listeners or the viewers know? Floor is yours to go ahead and say anything you'd like to.
Oh Lord. Well, for one, I guess I already said I was going to shout out my Discord. Not my Discord. Wow. My Instagram. So it's Wheeze_Juice is my Instagram page, and if you wanted to see the stuff I'm doing outside of this game, that's where you can find it. I'm on there all the time, posting all kinds of crazy crap. But if you want to check out more of the stuff with this game, or talk to me about maps and level design, go to the THPSX Discord. You can find it on thpsx.com. Shouts out to all of those people. There's so dang many of them that I don't want to go start naming names, but just shouts out to everybody. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Just, you know where to find me now.
Awesome. Freddie, any closing remarks for Sattan from you?
Just want to echo what Dode said. Thank you for coming on. It's been very interesting. We want to let all the listeners know that we'll get the penthouse level up on the site as soon as we can, so everybody can check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Sattan. Well, we got a couple of things that we're going to close the broadcast with. You're welcome to disconnect from voice if you'd like to. You're welcome to hang out if you want to as well. But yeah, thanks again so much for your time. Thanks for letting us pick your brain on some of this stuff. I'll say for me, I've loved your custom levels. I always look forward to it. I'm always super stoked when I see a new one come out. Can't wait to play it. I've enjoyed it. And just our friendship, I think, that we've established here over the course of time. It's invaluable to me. Love hanging out with you, and we really appreciate you coming on the podcast and being our guest today.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a good fun little hour and a half or so. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Awesome. All right, man. So we'll end that time with Sattan there. And so now let's go ahead and jump into our next guest. Freddie, you want to go ahead and take it?
Yes. So in 2 weeks, on Sunday, March 8th, me and Dode are pleased to welcome our next guest, Ludwig Gür, also known as Ice Bears Forever. Ice Bears has been a highly successful, or he has a highly successful YouTube channel with almost 9,000 subscribers. He has produced and released over 300 Tony Hawk's Pro Skater related videos, including multiple game reviews, game walkthroughs, and much more. Ludwig is also the director of the Pretending I'm a Superman, the Tony Hawk video game story, full length documentary, which tells the story of how skateboarding became a part of the mainstream, where it has stayed ever since. The development of the first Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game, its future titles, and where skateboarding is at today. The story is told through brand new interviews with skaters such as Tony Hawk, Eric Costin, Steve Caballero, Rodney Mullen, and many more. The film is being premiered at the Mammoth Film Festival on February 29th. And me and Dota are certainly greatly looking forward to talking to Ice Bears, and we're honored to welcome him to the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Super stoked. We're excited to have him. He'll be back in Sweden. He's headed to the premiere. At the premiere, Tony Hawk, Mullen are going to be there. Ralph D's going to be there from Neversoft. Mick West is going to be there. They've got a live band. It's sold out. They actually are adding a second viewing of it because it's been so successful. So Ludwig will be back in Sweden a couple of days later, and we'll have him on the podcast. We feel very fortunate to have him. We're excited to talk to him, and looking forward to that. So that will be in 2 weeks. No podcast next week unless we decide to do something impromptu, but we'll be live in 2 weeks on this. So, gosh, Freddie, anything else? Any closing thoughts from you as we move on here?
I just want to say again, Sattan has been a great member of our THPSX community, and really enjoyed having him here on the podcast tonight.
Oh, thanks, man. It's been so fun. It's been a good one.
Awesome. All right. So, with that, we are going to go ahead and get ready to end it here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part. We're glad you're here. Catch you next time.